More than a year after Edmonton declared a state of emergency on homelessness, the city releasing findings from a new task force. But it comes as council talks about transitioning away from funding supports for vulnerable Edmontonians they say should be funded by the province. According to the report, over 46,000 Edmontonians currently can't afford to live in the city, spending more than 30% of their income on housing. That number expected to grow by the end of the decade and push up the number of people experiencing homelessness.
The goal of the task force was really to say, where are there areas where we're not really working in at this point that could use a little bit of funding or mobilization.
The city task force on houselessness calling for a $3.5 million investment in community programs like retrofitting older buildings for affordable housing, along with peer-based supports for those looking to leave homelessness. Councillor Rutherford believes the state of emergency allowed the city to move quickly by creating this task force and coming up with ideas.
I firmly believe this would have happened anyway.
But councillor and mayoral candidate Tim Cartmel standing by his decision to vote against that state of emergency back in January 2024, believing it damaged relationships with provincial partners.
Particularly coming off literally hours off of a meeting with a substantial part of the government cabinet and city council. That has not happened since, because we came out in a rather deplorable way and tried to show them up.
But the report coming on the same day Edmonton City councillors were debating transitioning away from funding homeless supports that are under provincial jurisdiction, such as mental health care, addictions, and shelter operations. An idea getting pushback from the province, a spokesperson for Alberta's Ministry of Social Services saying in a statement, quote, "We fully reject any suggestions that supporting the most vulnerable is exclusively provincial jurisdiction, as all levels of government have an obligation to supporting the most vulnerable." Also pointing to a $220 million provincial investment into homelessness supports in this year's budget. Also including the Navigation Centre in downtown Edmonton has served over 6,000 people. But councillors hearing despite the increase in provincial spending, there is still a gap.
We're getting asked by Edmontonians to address property tax increases. That $41 million is about the equivalent of a 2% property tax increase. How do we keep funding these things at a time where there's so much financial pressure? But on the other hand, if we stopped tomorrow, if we just cut all of that $41 million out of the budget and returned it to Edmontonians, there would literally be lives lost.
City Council will discuss the task force report next week. Reporting from Edmonton, Darcy Robchan, City News.